This week on the After Dark podcast, we got more brain nuts. James Delos has the same conversation 1,000 times, or 37 I think it was, and someone's daughter shows up. Let's get into it.
Come on to the After Dark podcast. The podcast in which Sheriff Anthony does his best to wrangle Konrad through Westworld, one doggone episode at a time. So kick back and grab yourself some Apple Jack, or some Adam's Ale if that's your preferred poison, and get ready for these two wannabe cowboys to ramble the night away. Music was provided by the fantastic Nancy Wyatt and Jared Iscariot. Enjoy the show!
Hello, welcome to the After Dark podcast. My name's Anthony James, and that's Konrad.
Hello, welcome to the Raj again. Actually, no, we're not really in the Raj this week, but we got remnants of the Raj.
Remnants of the Raj in this episode, definitely. Thank you for coming. I meant to say, usually you've put me off there a bit, Konrad, because you say hello, and then I say, Konrad, how are you doing this week?
Yeah, no, I've gone straight into it. I'm all action. I'll tell you for why as well. I'll save this floundering intro segment with with an explanation as to why, and that is because this was a really good episode of Westworld. I thought I very much enjoyed this one, so I'm very enthusiastic about discussing it with you and our dear listeners.
Fun tabby doozy. Right, okay, well, let's not...
Bit fucking late!
Yeah. Let's not beat around the bush then, guys. Well, we're going to jump into the recap, Konrad. What do you think?
Let's do it.
Right, so... First things first, Robot Jim, who we don't know is a robot yet, gets told by William that he's a robot, and then he doesn't handle it very well. Man in Black comes across some questionable railway sleepers, and Bernard is reunited with Elsie, who was apparently in a cave this whole time next to a pile of protein bars. Okay. They discover another one of those labs with the drone hosts, which by the end of the episode we find out is where Scottish Jim was being kept. Matthew McConaughey wreaks havoc on Lawrence's family, which causes the Man in Black to have a change of heart. After time passes, William that was visiting Scottish Jim is now actually played by Ed Helms.
Good one. But seriously, guys, who did this?
Who tells Jim that Logan has passed away from a drug overdose. Zombie Jim then attacks Bernard and Elsie, and they torch him to death. It's revealed that Bernard was the one who actually killed all of the drone hosts and the scientists within the underground lair. Lawrence's daughter, who definitely hasn't aged, remembers the Man in Black. And the woman from the Raj is revealed to be the Man in Black's daughter. Did I miss anything? Right, Konrad. I realized last week I accidentally started off at the start of the episode. Let's not do that this week, just to show people that we're mixing things up.
Non-linear narratives. That's what we're doing here.
So what I want to talk about first is the whole sort of storyline / reveal that this Scottish Jim Delos, is actually a host of sorts. They've sort of copied his human consciousness onto this red brain nut, and they're trying to get him pouring milk correctly, it seems. Hasn't done it yet. What do you think, Konrad?
So, you know me. You all know me as someone who prides himself on his ability to see things coming, and this episode presented not one, but two things that I had failed to see coming. Admittedly, the Scottish Jim stuff was all self-contained within this episode. We haven't really seen this part of his character's arc up until this point, but it took me, I was very much the last horse to cross the finishing line in terms of what was actually going on and how that storyline tied into the rest of the episode. And then, not to get into it now, but the other reveal of who a certain character is, who maybe was hanging out in the Raj and isn't anymore, that completely took me by surprise as well. I think mainly with that one, I wasn't really thinking that hard about it. I was just like, I don't know, there's someone. Well, I've got more important things to figure out. I'll come back to you. And then wouldn't you know it, in the second episode that she's in, it's revealed. But the Scottish Jim stuff, I think that was like the heart of this episode.
Yeah.
And it was great. It was really, really good. I think that's in large part to do with the fact that I once again haven't looked up this actor's name, which I feel terrible about because he's very good. But the actor playing Scottish Jim is fantastic. He's sort of just this. He's very believable as this kind of like gruff billionaire type who, you know, is a force of person, a kind of has a cult of personality and a forceful personality.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and his conversations with William are really revealing of William's character as well, and where he's gone. I think that the fact that in this episode we see the time jump, essentially, I know we've had it confirmed already, but we see William having the conversation, and then we see Ed Harris as William having the conversation. And it feels, I don't know if I go so far as say it feels seamless. It's always going to feel like, oh, there's been a jump there because this character is now 50 years older, but it doesn't feel
50?
incongruous.
Okay. Sorry,
do you
Ed
not reckon
Harris.
it's 50 years? I don't know how old Ed Harris is.
Well, we know from the first season it was only 30 years ago.
Yeah, Ed Harris fucking wishes he was 30 years older than that actor.
I would say he is. How old's Ed Harris?
I reckon Ed Harris is getting close to his 80s, isn't he?
80s.
Hold on. Maybe I've done him a disservice there. Let's have a look.
I think he was like 50 when he did A Beautiful Mind. That's what I think.
He's okay. So Ed Harris is 70, and I can't remember the name of the actor who
Jimmy Simpson. Jimmy Simpson.
Let's have a look.
He's got to be 40 at least.
He's not going to be 20. So like, I'm already wrong. Jimmy, is his name definitely Jimmy Simpson?
Jimmi. Yeah.
Oh, he's got one of those names.
He's one of those ones. He's one of those Jimmy. But
honestly,
yeah,
he was born 1975.
1975.
So he was in his mid-30s. So okay, fair enough. Ed Harris is 35 years older than him, which is about right.
Didn't 1975 make him 46?
I was thinking about when Westworld started, and then comparing it to Ed Harris's age now.
41 or so when it started.
Yeah, I screwed up my maths. Listen, I've never claimed to be a mathematician. I'm an ideas man. I'm the Lee Sizemore of this podcast. All right.
I'm an ideas guy.
Yeah, I'm an ideas man. But it's a great scene, and it keeps on, the fact it keeps on being returned to and it keeps being interesting. I think is testimony to mainly the performances in it. I think, but it was great. It was a really great way of kind of underpinning this episode, and just a great way of getting this character back into the show, because I think we were only introduced to him like 2 episodes ago. It was definitely in season 2. And now,
this is technically a new character now.
Well, yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
well, technically not actually. What do you think about that? Because
he doesn't think he's a new character. Like I think there's a really interesting ethical debate to have there, because when it's initially revealed to the audience, it's reasonable to say it's probably not the first time William has revealed it to one of these gyms. But the first time it's revealed to the audience that he's a host and that his wife has died, his first thought is kind of like, oh, cool, you've cracked immortality, I'm going to live forever then. And it's a really interesting approach to it, because it's like, he doesn't think of himself as a separate entity to the gym Dallas. He's like, cool, I'm going to live forever. I'm going to go get on my boat and bang my wife, or whatever it is. He'll fuck my wife or whatever it is he says he's going to do. And it's sort of, it's very consistent with him as a character, I think, because... And I think a lot of those kind of like billionaire types who are very, very self-centered, very egotistical, and often, you need to be in that kind of position. That he doesn't even consider that if his wife were alive, maybe she would have a problem with having buried her husband and then having a robot husband come back and be like, let's jump in the bedroom. It's a really interesting approach to how people would deal with that, and I think there probably are some people that would respond that way, where they're just like, I have all my memories, I have all my life experiences in here, so am I not effectively the same person?
Well, yes, exactly. I know exactly what you mean. It's a great ethical question, but it's funny when you think about it in terms of like, imagine like photocopying a person, right? He's like a photocopy of his previous self. Like there are errors there, and it's not quite right, and that's sort of, actually, that's basically what aging is, isn't it? Photocopy of a photocopy in terms of the cells. But we'll go. We'll not go down that road anymore. But
that was the thing.
Emmett's not here to indulge that stream of thought.
No, thankfully not. But no, that was one of the things that kind of kept me in the dark about this, because I was like, I don't think it's ever actually been said what he was ill with, but as the that storyline was going on, I was like, oh, has he got like Alzheimer's and they're keeping him here to try and figure out some kind of... my mind went to, oh, they're doing some kind of like maybe stem cell-ish research with the hosts, seeing if they can essentially use the hosts to either incubate the stem cells that he needs, or the organ that he needs, or maybe even testing the disease that he has on hosts to figure out a cure or something like that. But the Alzheimer-ish stuff was where my mind went, which is not a million miles away from that idea of, photocopying cells and ultimately, the errors start to rack up and your body starts to break down. As it turns out, it wasn't that. But I still think it is kind of playing on those ideas of sort of representing a human whose kind of core functionality is there sometimes and not there other times. And I think the performance of the actor playing Jim Delos really captures that kind of like frustration at being like, no, I'm fine, even if it wasn't necessarily what they necessarily wanted it to be primarily about.
Yeah, no, I think you're right in that. Right, okay, I just wanted to talk a little bit now, Konrad. We got to talk about these drones. So the big white faceless drones.
Yeah, the monsters that they made, and we're like, let's not make these. Look at Apple's design of things, and it's all like cute, like Wall-E style looking things. Nice round edges. Nice big faces. Everything looks adorable and non-threatening. And then Delos went the other way, and they were like, make them as fucking horrific as you possibly can. Okay.
So this is what I want to talk to you about, actually, because they don't read as human, obviously, because they don't have the face or anything like that. So therefore, your brain thinks of them as a robot, okay? But we know that hosts these days are built like almost like they have flesh, right?
Yes.
Unfortunately, I don't stop thinking about this thing as a robot. So therefore, when it actually just moves fluently like a human, I can kind of feel like I can see the suit buckling over the actor's body. Like, I can see that it's a thick suit that they're wearing because my mind is thinking of it as a robot, and therefore when it does something that's a bit too human in terms of movement, I see it as a problem.
I know what you mean. That hasn't really struck me, to be honest, because I almost don't think of them as robots, to be honest. I think I know that that's what they are, but in my mind I kind of just think of them as almost like kind of worker ants or something like that. They are human in musculature, but not in consciousness, I guess. But definitely they don't feel that the hosts don't really. Not the hosts. The drones don't make a lot of sense. I think from a kind of functional standpoint, it's like what do you want them to do? If you want these things to literally just be, drones, things that carry stuff, do basic tasks, are able to maintain basic systems. I don't understand why they look like this. I don't understand why you wouldn't just use a robot or do it, automate it using a computer program, for instance.
Or one of those hundreds of retired hosts in the fridge. Like, just put a new brain in them, which is like basically the drone brain, and just don't spend $30,000 or whatever making a new one of these.
Yeah, they're an odd design. I don't dislike them because I think they're used to kind of compound tone in certain scenes. Like, there's some kind of horror-ish elements, particularly when a returning character and Bernard they kind of descend into this area of the park and start realizing what's actually been going on, and the fact that they are quite horrific, I think, supports that tone. But when you actually start kind of picking away at it and look under the surface, they don't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Let's talk about that character then. So, last week we had like 4 reunions in about 3 minutes.
Yes.
This week we've got another one. We've got another reunion.
Yep. They're getting the band back together.
Yeah. So Elsie, who was very much hinted at as still being alive in the first season, they waited until episode 4 of the second season to pull the trigger on that one. She's back. Just to make everything in this series that makes you think that this wasn't planned before. It's like Elsie comes back and you say, oh, they did have a plan. Of course they did. They knew she was coming back.
I think they did know that one, because the rule of movies and television is if you don't see someone die, most of the time they're not dead. And Elsie was one of those. I think, if I'm being cynical, they left it could be argued that maybe they just left themselves the wiggle room. They could have also said, in a throwaway line in this season, Elsie's dead, and just never done anything with that plot line if they wanted to. But they left themselves an out if they if they wanted it, and they took it. And it's nice to see her again. She is, she's a good character, and unfortunately she seems to have kind of just slotted into the Charlotte role of Bernard needs someone to give him his good brain milk, and that's going to be you now, Elsie.
Brain milk supplier.
Yeah, because Charlotte's gone.
He needs a bottle of brain milk on the doorstep every morning when he wakes up.
Yeah, he needs it. Otherwise, he gets grumpy. I will say this, actually, that, you know, I can make fun of this show for its bad writing, but I have to credit them when they do things that actually are good. Throughout the first season, I was relentless in making fun of their stupid healing wand thing. That they were just like, okay, that heals all wounds, don't worry about that. In this episode, Elsie literally says, your brain isn't working because you've got severe cortical, I think she says, damage or something like that. Your nut is damaged, essentially, is what she's saying, because it looks like he shot himself in the head. And as soon as she said that, I was like, you know what? Fair enough. You've got me there. You've got me. You've pointed out that the wand does apparently just kind of fix surface level things, and he's got more severe damage under the surface, and I respected them for doing it.
Yep. This is bringing you back, Konrad. Let me ask you this question. When I watched the Rugrats as a child, and I've made a joke about this in a video before, we never see the nappies getting changed. Never see them go to the toilet. Doesn't mean they don't.
Where does Tommy Pickles piss? That's what I want to know.
Tommy Pissles. Let me ask you this question. And I'm very dead serious here. How glad were you that they didn't show the pile of Elsie's shit in that cave that was right next to her?
How long has she been there for? It must have been like a month.
Oh, she had the protein bars. You know, to keep her going. Where was she on the toilet?
As someone who has at various times in his life been very keen on the gym and eaten lots of protein bars and taken lots of protein shakes, those things will wreak havoc with your digestive system without a good source of fiber, which she did not have. Yeah. I'm glad they didn't show it to us. I can only imagine the nightmare situation in the bucket that was provided.
She's looking at Bernard, says, "Do you not see anything there, Bernard?" He goes, "Doesn't look like anything to me."
It's like when the phone goes off in my house and my mum just pretends she can't hear it. Like Bernard, he definitely knows it's there, but he's like, I'm not dealing with that. That's nothing to do with me. Like that's Ford's problem as far as I'm concerned.
He told me to leave you a bucket and nothing else. Protein bars in a bucket. Don't blame me. Yeah. Right. Speaking about characters who die off screen, Elsie was not one of them.
No.
But we've got a new segment, Konrad.
I can't wait.
Gone but not forgotten, our fallen prince. They did you dirty, but you left your fingerprints on my soul. On my soul. On my soul.
You left your fingerprints on my soul. So as we all know, Konrad, we said goodbye to Logan in this episode.
Gone but not forgotten.
Gone but not forgotten. We didn't get to say goodbye. We didn't get. I said we say goodbye, but we didn't get to because he died off screen.
Why did they... I'll let you do your segment in a second, but why did they even put him in the fucking episode where they do the big party? If they were just going to kill him off screen an episode later, just say he died in the park. It doesn't make any sense.
Yes. Well, he was in that episode... I can't think of any... He was in that episode in two ways, I suppose. He was in that episode... Yeah, he was in that episode.
Oh, you have the you could have the early stuff with him. That stuff's good. I like that Logan stuff, but it's just weird to me that they like played around with this idea of him coming back and being a shell of his former self, just in that one episode, only to kill him off screen 2 episodes later, having not featured him again. Weird. Where they could have just been like, he died in the park. I don't know. It's like.
Yeah, like they. I really, really wish that from the start they had a plan and they had a character who'd appeared once or twice, and that ended up being old Logan. Like, you know, Ben Barnes did as well. Like Ben Barnes did a really good job with that character, and I actually am quite a bit sad that we didn't get more of him, to be honest with you. Yeah. Anyway,
he's a great villain, and we'll come back to that later because there's a villain in this episode that I want to talk about too. But the series is lacking for good villains.
That's true. That is true. Oh, you're talking about Matthew McConaughey? Yeah, we'll talk about him later on. So basically, what we're going to talk about this segment, guys, is we're going to talk about characters from films or TV who died off screen, first of all. So some of the notable ones. Konrad, what have you thought of?
Well, so we were talking about this before, and obviously I've got to do it. Johnny Galecki in Time, which we watched for the Best Movie Podcast Ever a couple of weeks ago. Plug. How dare they kill him off screen. Frankly, obviously you've got the classics that I, as an Englishman, reserve the right to call back to, and that is Rosencrantz and Guildenstern in the old Shakespeare classic Hamlet. And I mean, those are the main ones.
Yeah,
really.
I came up with two more. Sarah Connor kind of dies off screen because she isn't in Terminator 3.
Yeah, they just kill her and then her coffin's full of guns in Terminator 3, I believe.
Yeah. And then Adrian. Yeah, from Rocky.
She goes between 4 and 5, I think.
Why did she go? Did the actress pass away?
No, the actress was still alive. I think she was just didn't want to be in it anymore or something. But it's very throwaway, as I recall. There's just like a grave, and Rocky's poor again.
Yeah.
I think it's just to compound his character being sad in Rocky 5, to be honest.
All right. Well, we're into the meat and bones here now. The second part of this segment, I think, is my favorite part. And we're going to I've asked Konrad to come up with a character who he wishes had died off screen, but did not.
Yep. I'll do you one better than one character. I've got an entire cast of characters, one of which is played by Johnny Galecki. And that is, of course, you know what I'm talking about. It's that entire cast of The Big Bang Theory. I wish they'd all died off screen before that show began so that we never had to have it. That's my I wish Sheldon Cooper had burned to death as a child.
See, you're telling me. I did a maths degree at the height of that show. The amount of people wearing Bazinga shirts that I had to put up with in my life, like they thought they were in that show, and I'm just thinking, I was just like sitting there, like, you're not true mathematician-y nerd. You're playing it, like you're playing the character.
I was here before it was cool, all right? I was playing Warhammer in 1995, all right? I was out here grinding on the nerd streets before it was, socially acceptable to do so. Where were you, Sheldon? I can't remember that actor's name, but he'll always be Sheldon to me.
Yeah, who cares? But yeah, that's a good one. I actually think that you actually guys go and look it up after this. Finish listening to this episode of the After Dark podcast. Go over and look up Big Bang Theory with no laugh track.
I did that. I did that with friends the other day. It's great.
One of the most cringe-worthy things you could ever do. And the funny thing is, you then go and watch like Seinfeld with no laugh track, and now of course there's going to be moments that don't work, like Kramer sliding in the door and stuff. But there are moments in Seinfeld which it just basically feels like Curb Your Enthusiasm, whereas Big Bang Theory is so awkward. Like there's 20-second gaps. Yeah, I
need them to tell me when to laugh. Mm-hmm. What am I supposed to do if I don't have that?
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a good shout. Actually, I was wondering which way you were going to go with that, and you went with the whole cast of characters. Me, of course, it's got to be the death of Johnny from The Room. I would have much preferred not to see that. Having said that, actually, it was very interesting. But as Ema said, remember Ema asked him a question, saying about they all betrayed him. What was the take on it? And he answered. If everyone loves each other, the world would be a better place, or something like that. Well, it would be a much better place if we didn't have to see Johnny dying. And actually, no, I take that back. I would much rather have the scene where he's like rubbing his own area. Yeah,
rubbing his fiance's dress on his crotch.
Yeah, that's probably the scene I'll do. So not his death, that part. I wish that happened off screen.
Yeah, I mean, just halfway through the movie, just like. Cut him off, he dies off screen, and then you just don't get that bit or his death. Then you've two birds with one stone.
Listen, I wanted to find out more about the old woman who had cancer. That was what I wanted to find out more about. Anyway, okay, back to Westworld. You said you want to talk about a bad guy. Was I right in thinking it was the Matthew McConaughey guy?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So this season of this show is lacking for good villains at the moment. There are basically none, and I think. They've tried to sort of plug Dolores into that hole, and it doesn't really work because I'm still on her side, and I'm not feeling that she's an antagonist to anyone's aims, because all of the people who are kind of operating against her, I don't really care about. It's all sort of corporate human types that I don't care about. And I've been very vocal as well, saying I don't really like the Man in Black storyline in this season. I think his stuff with Lawrence just feels like it's retreading old ground. Yeah. And it feels like he's spinning his wheels a bit because they don't really know what they're doing with him. With that said, this guy turns up, a budget Matthew McConaughey rocks up, and it is great in this. He's a very simplistic villain. He doesn't seem to really. He's not, he's not one of those villains where you're like, I can kind of understand his point of view. He's just evil, and sometimes that's fine. Like sometimes you just need evil characters who know they're evil and don't really care. I really enjoyed it. I also really enjoyed his introduction. The Man in Black rocks up and somehow can recognize that the Confederados are down a few men, despite them having infinite men. Like they're like the fucking Tusken Raiders of Westworld. Like they did march in single file to conceal their numbers because there's just an infinite number of them. Like the kind of. The mirroring of Man in Black's visit to Lawrence's hometown with in the first season to this one is really good, I thought. And Man in Black, despite not having much to do this season, gets a real kind of badass moment out of this, where the dude is torturing Lawrence and making his wife walk to him with like a shot glass of nitroglycerin, and then he's like he starts talking about how death is always true. You didn't recognize that he was sitting across from you this whole time, and then stands up and starts playing that amazing like bassy like dun 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 dun. It's so good. Like it's a proper moment of a real kind of like high point for the Man in Black, I think, which is saying something because it's kind of comes out of nowhere. But that entire little arc in this episode, I loved.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I like the Lawrence stuff does feel a bit retreaded, but I do like the actual set piece retreading in this town this time.
Yeah,
and like
that works.
And like the guy who's serving the tequila shaking, and I think I honestly like there's the moment where he says you didn't recognize it was him, death sitting across from you this whole time. Yeah. That was so badass. I absolutely loved that. I was
like a fist in the air moment for me, where I was like, "Holy shit, that's a good line." The one criticism I will have of it is that I think what they feel like they're doing with Man in Black is that they are kind of, you establish him as a villain who's like this all powerful villain, then you show some vulnerability in him essentially being mortal now because the host can hurt him, and that's fine. But I think they screwed up by not injuring him early. That's always the play with this kind of storyline. It's a well-trodden storyline. You have your badass, and then as soon as you make them vulnerable, you have to exploit that vulnerability. He needs to, like, his arm should be like from where Dolores broke it should be unusable at this point. He should be limping around. He should be bleeding. That they need to make him seem weak, because if they'd have done that in the first 3 episodes, this moment would have been even better. I think it would, standing up, taking his arm out of a sling or something. It was still great. I loved it, but I feel like they haven't really capitalized on that as much as they could have. Yeah,
I know exactly what you mean. He's killed a load of people. He's fought his corner the whole series so far, and but it would have been cool coming out of the slow build, Konrad. The slow build. I think
he's got a couple of nicks in his neck and stuff like that from where people have caught him, but he should be full of holes and like on his last legs, I think, by this point, because this is a moral moment for his character where he decides to stand up for Lawrence and his people, even though he doesn't have to.
Yeah, and I think there is a deeper meaning there as well, because while he's sitting there deciding what to do, it's showing a cutaway to the bath. To a bath filling up, and what do you think about that?
I think that's him reflecting on how his actions impacted his own family life. We're seeing. It's a really interesting structure to this episode, because on one hand you're seeing the progression of William's obsession with Jim, and him kind of almost. It's almost like confessional or a diary or something. He comes into Jim at various points in his life and says, "Your wife is dead. Oh, my wife has died. My daughter's run away." All this kind of stuff, and it's a great way of just kind of using that as a bullet point for the action that you're going to see for the Man in Black's character in this episode. And as we see, it's him. I don't think he's going to suddenly become a good guy, but it's a moment for him to realize, like. It's a moment of self-reflection, which is something we haven't seen from William at all up until this point. A moment where I think he realizes that he had a part to play in his wife choosing to kill herself. Yeah. And the guilt he felt as a result of that led him to try and take a moral stance for this person that he doesn't really know, and that he doesn't need to help. And I think it's a huge moment for his character.
And I think it's also important that it's it is Lawrence's wife as well.
Yeah,
it's the same role, but also going past that as well is actually we're forgetting just how big it is that these are hosts as well. It's not like these are actual people, therefore, or are they? So but therefore. It also shows a way that he's changing his thoughts towards the hosts because they can kill him now, and therefore it's putting them a step closer to being a sort of people to him in his own mind. They're his equals almost now. He's sort of growing, and they're not just his playthings that he can go through the narrative and try and clock the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right, and I think that speaks to his own messed up brain in that, like that, how he comes to perceive people as worth something to him.
Because even Jim in this episode, who is like a photocopy of Jim's actual consciousness, he's still just burning him every time he doesn't succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't. That's why I say I don't think this is designed to. This is going to be some big switch, and the Man in Black's going to become a moral character, because I don't think. I think that it's taken so much to get him to this point that I don't think it's going to be something that happens regularly. But I absolutely think you're right that they are showing this moral turn for him against how he behaved with the host of Jim, who, as you say, is someone he'd known for probably by the time that storyline kind of ends, he's probably known him for the best part of 50 years, and he's still just happily burning him every time it goes wrong.
Yeah, like definitely best part of 35 years, I'd say. It's
no, because he knew him before as well.
Yeah, but he wasn't married to his daughter yet. It depends when his career started, I suppose. But But I'm
maintaining that Ed Harris is 80 years old. Right?
All right, okay, we'll give it to you. All right, I'll ring up Ed and say to change his birth certificate.
I've seen Enemy at the Gates. He'll fucking kill me. I know. I know what he's like.
Yeah, okay. All right, awesome. So what I'm going to do now, Konrad, is we're going to go into the question of the week. What do you think?
That sounds great. Let's do it.
Hey, Konrad, look who it is. It's only the bloody question of the week.
All right, Konrad, the question this week, I for some reason, and I don't know why, when this question was asked, I kept forgetting that... I kept forgetting the part that it was referring to, but now I realize actually that the part it was referring to was ages ago, so we actually can talk about it. And
okay.
that is the question. Let me just double check who sent us the question in. It was, of course, it was Kelly Denza. No, it wasn't Kelly Denza, sorry. It was Bill Ross.
Okay.
Yeah, Bill Ross, who absolutely, guys, if you didn't know, Bill Ross absolutely loves celebrity gossip couples. If you want, sorry, Bill, I'm just slagging off a little bit here, but if you really want to, Bill, get in contact. We'll send you all of Konrad and my portfolios of our celebrity couples. We love them. We love them.
I'll send you my pictures of Florence Pugh. Yeah. I don't own those.
Zach Braff's face scratched out.
Yeah, my own face like stuck onto photos of him.
Unbelievable, absolutely fantastic. Right, okay. Anyway, Bill Ross asks, "I'm willing to suspend my disbelief at a certain point, but how in the hell does Bernard pass a DNA test?" Do you remember when he had to do the DNA so that the drones wouldn't kill him?
Yes.
In like the first episode of this season. So, okay. So,
but maybe there's like a fail-safe, or not a fail-safe, but maybe there's like a kind of secret host level to that DNA test where it's like, we get it. He's one of us.
Maybe there is. I've actually got a real answer.
Okay, go on.
I think that it's not a DNA test. I mean,
okay.
It's a DNA sampling. So that the hosts, the drones take a sample of your DNA, and then they know that you are friendly, okay, and they won't kill you. I don't think that they programmed into those drones to detect when it isn't human DNA, because I'm sure the hosts have some sort of DNA sequence that they've sort of put in them, even if it's nowhere near as complex. I'm sure they've put something in their saliva or whatever it was that he tested with. So I think that instead of the drone seeing that he is a host and then alerting someone, I don't think that's their job. I think their job is literally take my sample and then do not kill me. So therefore, the drone might not be able to distinguish between a DNA sample and whatever sample Bernard gave it.
Yeah, that sounds plausible to me. I think that does sound plausible. I think is it literally said that it's a DNA test? I don't remember it being said.
Yeah,
that it's a DNA test.
In like the first episode, whenever Charlotte and him went down and we met the drones for the first time, they had to scan his DNA. She said DNA in order to not attack him, basically. So I don't think it's a testing that he's human. It's not a test. It's not like the thing that they put on her neck and tested last week.
Yeah.
I think it's just taking the sample and then knowing not to attack it. Very boring answer, Bill. I'm sorry. Let me know what you think in the comments.
Yeah. I mean, you're the science man, so I defer to you on this. My answer was just that they see it pops up on one of their screens like, oh, he's a host as well, and they all kind of give each other a little nudge, and they're like,
yeah. In my mind, as long as there's it's like in that drone's head, there's a box it's like a spreadsheet. There's a box where the information of DNA has to go in, and then it will read that from the spreadsheet. So in my mind, even if it's anything but nothing, there won't be an error. So that box in the drone's head will get something from Bernard and not be triggered. Right, that's the answer, guys. I'm not getting any more complicated than that. Thanks very much for listening to the After Dark podcast. We'll be back next week, of course, with episode 5 of season 2 of Westworld, and we will see you then. What about that, Konrad? Oh, I didn't say subscribe, support the channel, all that sort of stuff in the description. Click the subscribe button, like the video, all that sort of stuff. Also, go and check it out. Konrad's bad guy breakdown. Alex Trevelyan. Is it Alec or Alex?
Alex Trevelyan. Alex Trevelyan. Alec Trevelyan.
You know what's funny about that? It's like Alex Ferguson, Man United, Sir Alex Ferguson, the former manager. I watched the documentary and they kept saying Alex one time, Alec the next. It just pops back and forth, is what I've realized.
Yeah, it's just people being inconsistent.
Yeah, it's just people. Yeah, Lex. I'm gonna call him Lex. Lex Trevelyan,
nice.
Trevelyan, whatever his name is. 006. Go and watch it, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.